I love Chicago. Chicago is my favorite city, not to visit, but to talk about and bring to the front of the congregation. And I largely suspect that next year we won't be talking as much about Chicago if the people do the right thing and they continue to follow my lead. I largely believe that the people will make a decision and they are following my lead. Can we all say that Anton started this movement of holding Chicago politically accountable and that it's starting to snowball from there? You know what I'm starting to see? I'm starting to see my verbiage, my language, the words that I champion and love the most. People are now starting to call themselves bag chasers, and they are not even a part of the Patreon. If you are not a part of the Patreon, a link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Don't think you can come to any of our meetups, come into our spots, our events without joining the group. You want to be a plus one. You always trying to get the finesse on where y'all going to be next. No, I'm not doing it. Let me tell you something. I'm starting to see people say the word is egregious. Let me tell you something. All of my buzzwords that I say that I'm not going to change, because I know that I am at the forefront of a movement here. And when y'all see people say it and when y'all see people communicate it, you make sure you let them know that where they got it from. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Get that Teach Hanley 30% off your first order plus a free gift, the live stream sponsor. Let me show y'all what's going on in Chicago. I mean, Chicago is really in quite of a pickle here, I would say.
So far this year, Chicago has welcomed some 376 migrant buses from the Texas border. That does not include new arrivals traveling here by plane. Thank you for joining us. I'm Scott Schneider.
And I'm Dawn Hasbrook. While no buses arrived today and only one showed up yesterday, the city is still struggling to house more than 3,000 migrants. Casey Cronus is in Westtown with new developments tonight. Casey.
On the eve of a major meeting in Brighton Park and just hours until migrant families are expected to move into a shelter here in Westtown, residents in Inglewood are calling on the city to turn migrant buses around. In Inglewood, a group of community members attended what was dubbed a Stop the Buses rally.
What we're hearing from residents basically is that their voices are not being heard, that people aren't taking them seriously.
Hosted by the Black American Voters Project and Numbers USA, panelists shared how they feel immigration negatively impacts Black Americans.
I think what we're seeing there is we're at this crucial point in American history where we're trying to balance diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti.
No. You knew it. I knew it. You knew it. I knew it. You knew it. And see, this is what the finesse was. And I told y'all, big heads, that the diversity, equity, and inclusion wasn't going to work for you, and all of that stuff that y'all was sitting there protesting for over the last 3 to 4 years and keep on having a reparation. Hey, remember when reparations was a conversation and y'all said, yeah, it's how we going to get it. Just make sure that you don't say nothing when you want to come over here. Where? Where they at, though? Ain't nobody talking about reparations no more. Ain't that something? Ain't nobody talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion no more. Ain't that something? Ain't nobody got time to go out here and protest for reparations because y'all forgot that it even existed because y'all so focused on the things that didn't matter. And now you over here trying to get over-representation for the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they spending billions, and I'm saying it with a B, billions with a B, on the migrant crisis. Can we get a round of applause for the people that actually called this for what it is instead of living in this false reality we know us to be the Matrix? We gon' bring you to the front of the congregation. And while you're sitting here being concerned about Black citizens and we're still trying to push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're going to go ahead and replace you. Man, listen, I got a story here today that I'm going to get to. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in and you share this with your family and friends. I got a story today that we going to get to where they already got jobs, they got work visas, they got everything, and they letting it fly right on under the radar, and you didn't even know that they had it. Come on, Pamela, Denise Long, Tell us about how you got to stop the rally panelists to stop these migrants from coming into the country.
Racism with what it means to be a nation state that attends to the needs of its own people first.
Reading Miss Quote Shetty next.
Residents who are suing over a migrant shelter on Western Avenue were denied a temporary restraining order last week. And according to Alderman Gilbert Villegas' office, families are expected to begin moving into the building sometime Tuesday.
They coming.
As meetings grow heated, like this one over the weekend with South Shore residents. Another big meeting is scheduled in Brighton Park.
Where is Umar Johnson on here to stand up for y'all? I thought that Umar Johnson was the #1 black motivational political Malcolm X. Where is Umar Johnson? I heard that Umar Johnson, we ain't reviewed this stuff in a while. I'm going to have to pull him up just to see what he's doing. I heard that Umar Johnson was over there having paint parties like a paint and sip. I heard that Umar Johnson is over there getting volunteers for paint parties like y'all doing the paint and sip. Y'all know them dates that y'all used to go on? I thought that he was at the forefront of all of the movements. Where's Black Lives Matters? Well, they ran out of money that they don't protest no more? Y'all threw y'all t-shirts away for Black Lives Matter? Umar Johnson over there having paint parties and that building still ain't open? Going on year 2024 since 2008. From 2008, yo, listen, I'm about to build whole houses from the ground up, laying whole foundations and everything, and this guy is still building the same. I'm building my first house from scratch with no loans, no donations, no anything, from scratch. And this guy is taking 16, 17 years to get a school open that y'all still going to have to pay tuition for. That's crazy. I want him to come over here and join the protests in Chicago.
It's over a proposed encampment at 38th and California. And while the site is in Alderwoman Julia Ramirez's ward, the meeting will be held by Alderman Ray Lopez, who represents part of the neighborhood and says he feels residents were quieted at a meeting last month. Tomorrow's meeting will be held at the Brighton Park Community Campus at 48th and Western from 6 to 8 p.m. Reporting in Westtown, Casey Cronus, Fox 32.
Well, let's see what Brandon Johnson is, because Brandon Johnson has kind of been MIA. He's not as visible as he used to be. He's not returning our phone calls over to his office. He's not really sharing the Freedom of Information Act information that we're requesting with redacted documents. And his mohawk is getting smaller, and it looks as though his haircut is not as haircutted anymore. He might be stressing out. Let's see what Mayor Brandon Johnson is doing as far as what the people is requesting of him.
Time reporters chasing after Mayor Johnson to get answers about the migrant housing situation.
Let's go to WGN's Christine Flores. She's live on the south side with that part of the story this afternoon. Christine.
Yeah, good evening. Mayor Johnson was here for a press conference on a different matter, but we did have an opportunity to ask him about the migrant crisis that the city is experiencing and that we have been seeing in and around police stations as well as at O'Hare.
Winter is coming, everyone knows that. The weather has been somewhat patient with us, but that's not going to last, right? And so we have to move with the type of urgency that is required in this moment.
Mayor Brandon Johnson addressing the migrant crisis the city is currently facing. Since August of last year, the city has received more than 20,000 new arrivals. As of this morning, more than 2,700 await placement at police stations. 503 are currently at O'Hare, and one person is at Midway.
My concern is the fact that we have pregnant women who are sleeping outside, that we have children laying on floors, and that we have political dynamics that have forced the type of massive population shift that has had a tremendous impact on our local economy. And so, of course, there's a degree of urgency that I have to make sure as the mayor of the city of Chicago to ensure that people are not sleeping outside.
Have y'all ever seen anybody this haughty before? Just curious. Have you guys ever seen anybody this arrogant? And I admire it. I think that it's hilarious. I think that it's the funniest thing that we've seen in a long time. Have you ever seen anybody this haughty and arrogant? and what it is that they standing on, and it does not represent the best interest of the people. Let me ask y'all a question for a second. We got pregnant Venezuelan migrants that is over here, and we can't tell the difference between illegal immigration and asylum seeking anymore. Neither here nor there. I'm a trademark that, neither here nor there. Did they get pregnant before when they made their jungle trek through the Amazon rainforest and over the coyotes and the tigers, lions, and bears? And then they got over here when they get on the bus? Or did they get pregnant afterwards? Just curious. Did they get pregnant before or after? And does that also include the free health care that's being administered on behalf of Chicago? Just curious. And who's the daddy? And who's the boyfriend? Are we repopulating what's going on in Chicago? Newborns, new strollers, new baby clothes. Ain't nobody lost no weight. Everybody got heat, clothes, new enrollment in school, healthcare, daycare. Everything is just going off without a hitch. Did you get pregnant before, during, or after the more than 1 year trek that you allegedly made, and then you caught a flight straight to Chicago? I'm just curious because the people want answers, and the people are asking questions, I think, that make sense. They're saying, wait a minute, how did the migrant crisis overtake the thing that was the most important as far as what we voted you in for, was to undo all of the things that we didn't care for when it came to Lori Lightfoot, but y'all got Brandon Johnson running everything. Let's continue.
And that people are not sleeping on floors. Like, that is our top priority.
Mayor Johnson was also asked about the pushback from some residents and alderpeople who say they feel left out on the decision-making process when it comes to shelters and what they call the lack of transparency.
I've stood up a new shelter every single week since I've been in office. We received 150 buses just in the month of October alone, and we still have 3,000 people who are living on floors in police stations and airports. That's unconscionable. Johnson mentioned his recent trip to Washington, D.C., where he joined other mayors at the White House in asking for funding for the crisis. I have worked every single day to challenge the federal government, and that's why I was in D.C. again, challenging the state of Illinois that they have to do more because this crisis is upon us.
Now, you guys do realize, thank you, Harry Truman. You guys do realize that, and feel free to correct me if I'm not giving this information correctly, but this is a thing. You do realize that when somebody has children that is born here, they are automatically declared to be a United States citizen. Let me say that again. When somebody is born here, they are already declared and made a U.S. citizen as a result of being born here in the United States of America. It is often a thing, and you guys need to look it up. And I researched this a long time ago, but I've watched a lot and studied about it. But it is often a thing that people will visit here, and they will often at times even hide their pregnancies. Chinese people do it on a regular basis. It is a thing for a child to have dual citizenship and to be declared an American citizen because they flew here, had their child here, and then they flew back to their original country. And now they are an American citizen. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. If you are born here, so them getting pregnant, I don't know if they got pregnant on a bus, if they was on their way here, whatever it is, when they have a child here in the United States of America, they absolutely, positively are already American citizens. If y'all are not paying attention and putting together your context clues in order to make more informed decisions, if y'all are just thinking that this is just surface level and it's just, oh my God, the borders, there was some holes in the borders and so now we got an asylum. This is a finesse if I have never seen it before in my entire life. And Brandon Johnson has no regard based off of the information that he's sharing and the stance that he's taken. He has no regard for you as American citizens, as constituents of Chicago, and you guys continue to support him. But while that's also happening, let me show you what's continuing to happen, because this is not just on the shoulders of Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson just so happened to be the most haughty person that's in political leadership that is standing on this square. But this is not the only thing. This is also all across the board. All of your aldermen, all of your city council members, all of them are facing a reckoning in Chicago because y'all just so happen to get the spotlight on y'all. Let me give you an example.
But first, from the council to the courtroom. For decades, former Alderman Ed Burke ruled the Chicago City Council.
Today, he walked into a federal courthouse hoping to avoid going to prison for the rest of his life.
Dane Placco reports on the first day of what promises to be an historic corruption trial.
Former Alderman Ed Burke walked into the Dirksen Federal Courthouse smiling in a dapper suit and wearing his signature fedora. His former Illinois Supreme Court Justice wife Ann at his side. But the charges Burke...
Former Supreme Court Justice wife. Let me tell you something. These men are already old. It doesn't even matter. They don't even have any time left, and their expiration date is just around the corner. They've ruled Chicago along with his Supreme Court Justice wife, and they've been ruling Chicago since the beginning of time. And so when you see all of these new aldermen and city council people and the Brandon Johnsons and all of this other type of stuff, right? It's their turn. It's their turn. Remember a few weeks ago, almost a month ago, when I did a live stream on the Anton Daniels channel on Wednesday, and I was talking to y'all about the importance of power, and when you marry into power versus marrying based off of love, it's a completely different conversation. Let's continue.
Burke is facing are deadly serious. 14 felony counts, including bribery, racketeering, and extortion. In 2018, the FBI raided Burke City Hall and ward offices, carting off boxes of records. Months later, the feds charged Burke with using his political clout
I'm about to get a jacket just like that. Seen one in Burberry the other day.
Forced businesses to hire his law firm for tax appeal work, ringing the cash register, as Burke put it, in a secretly recorded conversation, and putting the money in his own pocket. Today, a total of 53 potential jurors were brought into the courtroom from all across northern Illinois and called up one by one to talk a little bit about themselves and whether they could be a fair and impartial juror. Judge Virginia Kendall peppered the potential jurors with a variety of questions, everything from what TV shows are you binging to do you go on the internet frequently? Do you post anything of a political nature? It'll be difficult to find jurors who have not heard of Burke, who served a record 54 years in the city council, much of that as chairman of the powerful finance committee, which controls the city's purse strings.
So all of the money, all of the finances, all of the bags flow through those that hold Chicago hostage with a strong arm and marrying more into power, and they've literally been running the city for decades. They sold off y'all streets. They forced people to pay to play, and they are not public servants. They are capitalists. And so while all of this is happening, there's a new regime that is continuing to be elected every single day, and the people of Chicago is doing it based off of what? Ignorance.
Prosecutors and defense attorneys must agree on 12 jurors and 4 alternates before opening statements can begin, which could happen Wednesday. The judge said the trial's expected to take 6 weeks, meaning it should end right around the holidays when Burke turns 80 years old.
When he turns 80 years old, this man has been controlling the Chicago purse strings and where the money is flowing for over 80 years. 80 years old. Chicago. Everybody keep asking Anton, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening, Anton? Why do you keep bringing Chicago to the front of the congregation? Why do you keep bringing Chicago to the front of the congregation? Because Chicago needs a reckoning. It's your time, Chicago.